want to maybe do the podcast from the Billy Nick pub.
Oh God, that would be so great.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh,
I mean, I
my
just think
God,
that would
that'd
just
be so
be
great.
absolutely perfect. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. Julie, what about you? You got a favorite FA Cup memory?
Hey, well, of course, for a lot of the 70s and the 80s and 90s, I was actually a working football reporter, so I don't have specific Spurs memories of that period, because when I was at Wembley, Spurs weren't at Wembley. So my major memories are actually, print, black and white, passé news, growing up a child in 1961. So I have this memory which is imprinted on my brain. I wasn't there, but I am there. It's Danny Blanchard lifting the cup after Spurs had won the double, and that lovely, great, big, glittering trophy with the ribbons. Now, I have felt the FA Cup. They had it on display once, and, we kind of all walked around it, and it's such a beautiful object, and I kind of touch this cup with so much history. And, I just think of Danny Blanchard lifting the cup. And in 1967, when Spurs beat Chelsea, and Dave Mackay was sort of playing out his last days, and, I was actually a student then, and I saw that in black and white on a television in the students' bar, and it was one of the best moments. It was just fantastic to see Dave Mackay, who had come back after all, those 2 broken legs.
Yep.
And that is the kind of moment that it just makes you cry, doesn't it? It makes you cry with happiness.
Well, and that's
absolutely does. And just hearing you talk about Danny Blanchard and 61, I just got this really weird idea, Julie. Maybe you should write a film about it.
Well, can I just do a quick? I'll do a quick pass. That film that I wrote, those glory, glory days, in which Danny was in it. We're turning it into a stage musical.
Yep.
You so are. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's it'll be about 18 months, but watch this space, so to speak. It's going to be those glory, glory days, the musical on stage. It's going to be, it's going to be the football Mamma Mia.
I cannot wait. I've got to tell you, you've told me about this before, and can't wait.
That is just brilliant. It really is.
Amazing. Amazing.
Okay, quick questions. I want to ask you guys some questions. We've kind of been talking football, but I want to ask you guys some direct questions.
Uh-oh.
First, it's going to be all good. Julie, first, we'll start with you since you're the young lady in the house today. What is the one thing that the club has done since you've been following Spurs that made you feel the absolute best, and conversely the absolute worst, and not just on the field of play, just anything the club has done?
That's well, I would never want to say anything bad about Spurs because I love it, and when Spurs does make decisions, it's done for reasons which I may not know about.
Right.
Of course, I was absolutely gutted when Gareth Bale left.
Yeah.
And seeing him unveiled at Real Madrid, I mean, it's just like watching your boyfriend with his new girlfriend after you've been dumped. It was just horrible, horrible. So, not so terribly pleased about that. Best thing Spurs has ever done, well, apart from giving Billy Nicholson the job in way back in history, I think that maybe the decision to employ Mauricio Pochettino may turn out to be one of the best decisions ever made by Tottenham.
Preach it, Julie, preach it.
I like that. Daniel, what about you? Do you have any worsts and bests about just internal feelings on things that have happened over the years?
Yeah, so the best decision, obviously I started going in 1975 as a young and impressionable 4-year-old, nearly 5. So the best decision for me, looking back with hindsight, was the one decision that put Tottenham on the map, and the headline, Spurs scoop the world. So signing Ozzy and Ricky at that time was the best decision.
Wow.
The worst decision, I think, I've got to be careful how I answer this, so let me answer it this way. The commentary gantry at White Hart Lane is the coldest part on the ground, and it took me an hour to get the feeling back on my feet yesterday. I don't expect too much sympathy. So the worst decision they ever made was one of the stewards band the very nice young ladies from the lounge that our edit suite is in to bringing me a cup of tea up at half-time on health and safety grounds. So for me, that was the worst decision the club have made.
Right, fantastic.
Beautifully said. All right, Daniel, since you're more of a day-to-day activity personality with the club, can you give us a sense of how things are different or change under the direction of the different managers, like from Pochettino to AVB to Harry, and how things change in semblance of your feeling as even somewhat of a club employee at the grounds and at the practice facility and at the stadium even on match day?
That's a great question. For those of us that are involved in the sort of match day presentation side of things, and I'm talking, myself, Pete, and Paul Coit, there isn't that much of a difference, to be honest. We heard things that AVB, so Andre Villas-Boas, like to have certain types of music played, but other than that, we just turn up, we do our job, and it's public facing, and the first team squad and what they get up to, and the management side of the football team. I wouldn't say they're wrapped in cotton wool, but they're so far removed from what anybody else on the match day experience inside sees. There's no real difference. There's no real difference. We hear I hear certain things about some of the analysis which they like to hear and which they don't hear, and but other than that, we just turn up, we do our job, and we go home again, and that's it. So yeah. It doesn't really change from manager to manager or head coach to head coach. It's no one's bigger than the club. It's Tottenham Hotspur, and whether it's Pochettino, whether it's AVB, whether it's Glenn Hoddle, no matter who it is, we are Tottenham Hotspur. And that clip that's played before the players come out now, the brand video as they call it, which is narrated by Roger Lloyd Pack. You'll get to see it when you come over. That is more about Tottenham Hotspur than who the current incumbents are. Yes, the styles of play changes and all that kind of stuff, but those of us working there, we just do our job.
I've seen that video. It's on YouTube. I've watched it about 350 times, and I kid you not, that is not exaggerated, and I well up every single time.
Absolutely. And for me, that's depending on which version you've seen, because there's different cuts of it. For me, my voice being on that, I can't tell you, it's such a massive honour for me.
Hey, speaking of your voice, Daniel, if you haven't, give our intro a listen, because I'm dying to know whether some of the audio is you, because there's a couple of spots where the commentator seems so Tottenham, so pro Spurs. I wonder whether it's you. So maybe we'll catch up next week after you listen to that. But I think one at least might be you. Where it says
which one is it?
I think he says like this great and glorious club on the Tottenham High Road or something like that.
No, that's
and just not you. Maybe there's another one as well. So I don't know whether that's you. And I'm really shocked that you didn't say the best decision they ever made was hiring you.
That's not for me to say.
I'd agree with that.
But sort of March, April time, they tend to tell me whether I'm kept on for the next season. So I do look forward to that, and hopefully, they'll be saying yes again. So.
The two of you are so incredibly blessed, right? I mean, we chatted about this earlier. I mean, you're the envy of every Spurs supporter. You get to watch every match home and away, and then Julie is a writer, as a sports writer, to write this. I mean, it's a Bible. It's an absolute Bible, and it absolutely should be required reading for because we talked about this much earlier about why there's been such popularity of U.S. supporters, and I think one of the biggest reasons is we have character, we have history, and Julie, your book is, as I said, dude, it's the fastest big book I've never read a book that fast in my life. I could hardly put it down, and I was in tears in spots, and I'm grateful.
Can I just say that on the subject of that book? That was the first time I met Julie. Julie came around to my house to talk to me about it, and I'm honoured again to be in that book, to even be worthy of being considered to be in that book. And I was saying to my kids that night, that film when it came out in 81, 82, no, sorry, 83, 84, sorry. When that film came out, I watched it, and to me that's part of my youth growing up. And to have Julie in my front room talking to me about Tottenham, it should have been the other way round.
Oh.
It was a real
amazing.
Yeah.
I know that she had mentioned she's doing a rewrite for that now to include some of the more recent history. So, Julie, chapter 1, the influence of America on Tottenham Hotspur. I was on this funny little podcast.
Particularly Dallas, Texas, of course.
I shall mention Hotspur America. Don't you worry.
Isn't that beautiful?
Wow.
Julie, and on the go ahead.
I said I won't even cut Daniel's lines to fit it in.
Go. And on the writing side, Julie, let me ask you this. And it's going to go back a ways. And if it's too much, do let me know. Can you give me a sense of what it was like dealing with the sexism that exists or even existed in sports journalism, especially during the time when it felt like that you were a pioneer in helping to break down that barrier?
Well, it was so long ago. I mean, I was always aware that I was invading a kind of men-only place, and so I kind of felt guilty about that. But on the other hand, I thought, well, this is what I want to do. For anybody who likes football, it's of course a dream job, or it was back then.
Sure.
To report football. There was a lot of sexism, and there still is. But I mean, you just sort of live with it. I mean, women are sexist about men as well. So I've had such a fantastic time being a football reporter. I just can't begin to tell you. It's just been marvellous. And just to be able to write the biography of Spurs is just it's really just one of the. I've written quite a few books, and I would say, it was the greatest thing to be commissioned to write that. Just such an honour. Wow, I'm speechless.
I think that we're all very happy that you wrote that book.
Absolutely.
I cannot even begin to. My Spurs history, my favorite FA Cup memories, have yet to happen. I'm 2 years old as far as being a Spurs supporter goes. But it's the books, it's the movie, it's some of the videos that I get to see that are, and it's having Simon as one of my best mates that allows me to learn a lot about the history about this club.
But I think what I'd say, Ken, is that when you go to White Hart Lane,
I'm gonna cry.
When you walk away from it, it's what I said in the Spurs book, walking away from it at night as a kind of years melt away, and you're kind of back at the real start of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Spurs, there's something in the atmosphere there. It hasn't changed at all
absolutely.
Since 1882, absolutely. In a way.
Yeah. You just said that you're going to cry, Ken. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I had some friends that were over. I had some friends that I took to the game, and she had her dad there, who now lives overseas. I think it was Cyprus or somewhere, and it was about 75 years of age, and it was his first time back at White Hart Lane for about 10 to 15 years. Mm-hmm. And I got him into the ground before kick-off. He just wanted to see it empty, so I took him in, and I promise you, as he walked into the stadium, he burst out crying. This is a grown man, 75 years of age, hairy arse, right? And he burst out crying.
Brilliant. Oh gosh. I do it every time as well.
There you go. That's your dad.
Yeah.
I think I've only cried once at White Hart Lane. I should have cried when '87 Arsenal beat us in the League Cup replay. I probably did at some point that week, but I took my eldest. He was 7, I think, at the time, 7 or 8. It was first time at White Hart Lane. We were playing Portsmouth 06. I think we scored in the first minute. And it was such a glorious day. I think it was October, just turned October, but it was, shirt sleeves and lovely day. And we scored and we hugged, and I cried. Because those are the moments. My dad never took me to see football, so I wanted to do the things that I never experienced as a kid, and for me to do that with my eldest, who's the influences around him at school at that age to follow United or Barcelona or all these other clubs, and he took some flack for following Spurs, and he's stuck steadfast. He comes down the pub with us now, and I did shed a tear as we hugged when we scored that goal. And I asked him a few years later, what were your memories of that day? And he was enamoured. We were right down in the corner by the Park Lane end and the away section, and he said, I still remember the chanting, something about Sol Campbell and shoving it up. I said, whoa, stop right there.